Lighthouses are liminal spaces, somewhere between the land and the water, and between the boats and death. Isolation, caused by location and bad weather, have led to many strange and life-threatening events in the history of lightkeeping. Relief of this very dangerous occupation was not to happen until the 1980s, the advent of automation and self-powering lighthouses. One of the most famous lighthouse stories is that of Flannan Island in 1901 in the Hebrides of Scotland. 100 years before this, and some 20 miles from the coast of Wales, is a place called the Smalls Lighthouse. It's a little outside my usual story location, but this story was quite terrifying and has been an inspiration for a couple of movies and at least one radio play. The Smalls Lighthouse stands on a small formation of rocks that could hardly be called an island. Built in the 1700s, made of wood, this very small lighthouse, a place of historical events, has been the scene of many tragic moments. In 1831, a bad storm destroyed the cabin of the lighthouse, seriously injuring 3 keepers. Of those 3 men that lived in the cabin, 1 actually died. The building had survived another 30 years before it was finally replaced by a more modern lighthouse, and this time actually had a flushing toilet. The reason the 3 lighthouse keepers were living in such a small space of about 5 meters in diameter is because of an event that happened 30 years before, known as the Smalls Lighthouse Tragedy of 1801. 2 men by the names of Thomas Howell and Thomas Griffith were manning the lighthouse. Some stories exist that suggest that they were quarrelsome and not friendly towards each other, particularly when they were witnessed buying supplies back on the mainland. Thomas Griffith had apparently fallen ill and had stayed ill for many weeks. The wind and the rain had become bad enough that no supplies or relief lighthouse keepers were able to reach the island. Time passed and Griffith eventually died. The weather outside had continued to trap them on Smalls Island. Thomas Howell was left, stuck in this 5-meter diameter space, with the corpse of a man that he couldn't even stand to be around in life. He couldn't bring himself to deposit the body out to sea, mostly because he would be accused of the man's murder, based on the relationship witnessed by the locals. So he kept the body as an evidence of no wrongdoing. But it didn't take long for the harsh circumstances to encourage the decomposition of the body, and I'm sure there was quite a smell. Howell had some experience in carpentry, and he was able to take apart some of the furniture and loose wood from around the cabin to create a coffin. Howell then decided that the coffin should be moved onto the small platform outside of the lighthouse. The wind was strong, but Howell somehow managed to tie this coffin to the railing outside. Unfortunately, his carpentry wasn't strong enough, and the wind, far stronger, broke the coffin apart. Howell was now forced to watch the hand of the man wave at him through the window. Stuck in this small cabin, lacking supplies, with no sign of relief from his duties, he now had to endure the ghastly animation of Griffith's corpse. Almost as if beckoning Howell to join him, Griffith's corpse was a morbid sight as he continued to perform his life-saving task of ensuring that the lighthouse light guided the ship away from the rocks. It was a long before they were able to be retrieved from this situation. When the ships finally came to relieve Griffith and Howell, potential rescue boats and supply boats admitted to seeing the shape of a man outside of the lighthouse. With the lighthouse still functioning and the gentle wave of the man standing in front of it, no indication was given to the sailors that anything was amiss, and none of them had tried to reach them on those hazardous rocks, leaving Howell and Griffith alone in the long, dark, wet nights. When they retrieved Howell from his nightmarish situation, he was never quite the same. Even his own family couldn't recognise him. Between his physical appearance caused by starvation and his mental torture, not long after his return, the rules of manning lighthouses were actually changed so no one else would have to endure this hellish tour of duty in the same way ever again.